Welcome to Moment of Truth with Amy Chen Mills.
And Talk of the Bay on KSQD and KSQT FM in Santa Cruz, California.
I'm Todd Zimmerman.
And I'm Clay Worthington. The following is our full interview with Nicole Ritterbush, the Housing and Outreach Supervisor and Case Manager at Maslow Project out of Medford and Grants Pass, Oregon.
In this talk, Nicole demonstrates how passionate she is about serving marginalized communities and individuals by providing access to basic needs, resources such as mental health and medical needs support,
and housing navigation. Let's get to it. So you have the Maslow Project.
Yes.
Will you give us a brief overview of what that is, what you do?
Yes. So my name is Nicole Ritterbush, and I am the Housing and Outreach Supervisor and a Case Manager. The Maslow Project is a local nonprofit that covers the Josephine and Jackson counties, and we help first by supporting basic needs support to people. And the people who qualify for our services are youth who are experiencing homelessness, 24 and under, families with children who are experiencing homelessness or at risk of homelessness, and pregnant people. Mm-hmm. And then we move on to higher needs services to help connect them to housing navigation, and connecting them with any other services they may need, mental health support. A big thing that we do is support the McKinney-Vento law, MKV law, make sure any barriers to school and higher education is removed, and just making sure anything that they need that we help them with, and we connect them with any other service and have great partnerships with other agencies in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Yeah, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I guess, is where that comes from.
It definitely does. So people cannot move higher up unless they have those basic needs met.
Yeah. Food, shelter, water.
Exactly.
Right.
It really helps build that trust with people so that they can really tell you what their true needs are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
What are some myths that people in the community at large have about the unhoused or people facing housing instability?
I think the biggest one that has been going around has been that there's one face of homelessness, and that is addiction. Mm-hmm. And that people are homeless because they don't want to work and they're dealing with addiction. Mm-hmm. And we all know that that is not true, that anyone can become homeless, one traumatic experience away from it. And I feel like with everything that's going on, more people are realizing that, or they're gaining experience from meeting people and hearing their stories through great people who are telling these stories and sharing them. Mm-hmm. And maybe by going out on outreach and looking at the people as people. Yeah. And seeing what's really happening.
Like you were saying, when we were talking about the lunch program in Eugene that's having a hard time, being a thing because people know that one face of homelessness. Mm-hmm. You're talking about how like the people that you've had change their mind in the conversations that you've had with them, mm-hmm. And changing it from that one face of homelessness that they know, mm-hmm. to, this can happen to anybody very quickly, very easily.
Yeah. So, and knowing that there's elderly people, mm-hmm. with animals, there's people who have had traumatic events, lost children. There's people who have lost their partners, and they don't have the skill set at first to get over that and to be able to stay stably housed. Mm-hmm. There's people who lost their jobs, and then, just different things that happen, and they just need a hand up to be able to get out of that situation.
Absolutely.
Now, are there any barriers that state or local municipalities might create, like I was talking about the lunch program in Eugene? They're having a hard time getting the permits necessary to keep that going for the community, that the number of people needing that food assistance is just growing and growing. Are there barriers that the Maslow Project faces locally or statewide that hinder or slow down the process of aiding the community?
We do not have a lot of clients specifically in our demographic that are affected by penalties for camping or having to get moved along because they do not choose to stay in those situations. Mm-hmm. But people who are getting charged fees that they obviously cannot pay And then people in other situations who are getting evicted, those are definitely housing barriers, and then it takes a mental health toll for sure on people. And then a lack of trust and leaning on any kind of social service or aid for trusting people to be able to move on and get back into society to be successful.
Mm-hmm. Are there barriers that the project is facing from like the local or state government that's making you guys hard to give support?
We actually have great support. We have a lot of support coming for housing. We are going to be able to help house a lot of people and help remove their barriers. And we're working very hard to get that done in both counties.
And does that come through UCAN?
We have advocated with the government to make sure that we can make that connection and just communicating with all the partners and look to resources. And if we have to work with the individual because every client that we work with has unique situations. So there's, of course, some people that we're not able to house immediately. They have to work through a lot of different barriers that they're facing. Mm-hmm. We have great partnerships with our schools. So we work with advocates in the schools also. Yeah. And then there's other agencies that have help with deposit funding, mm-hmm. If it's something that we're not able to help with. Mm-hmm. Or barrier removal, if there's utility bills that are owed for people to get into housing. Mm-hmm. So we just all work together to try to house people and then make sure we're all aligned with knowing what housing is available. And I know, I'm not sure if this is because of the Supreme Court situation ruling and the attention that the area has gotten. The city has been working harder at zoning more areas to allow more housing. So I feel like there's a lot more housing that's going to be coming and available for people, and not only housing but low income housing.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's really good.
Yeah, and that's here in the Grants Pass community.
Yes, and Jackson County.
Okay, so cool.
Both. So there's a lot of positive information coming through in housing and hope for people.
That was something I was going to ask about. You brought up outreach work. What kind of community response have you seen in general, and then maybe since the Supreme Court ruling, in support of the work that you do and what the supporting the needs of the unhoused?
So I specifically do outreach out in the rural area of Cave Junction. We're able to provide outreach how we see fit and help work with all the other agencies and help the community, and we all work together, and it's a great partnership and provide resources. And it's an area, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, that it's kind of cut off from a lot of services because it's farther out and there's a huge need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm very happy with what we're doing out there. My coworkers, they provide outreach here in the Grants Pass area. And like I said, we don't have a huge demographic of our clients that are in the parks at all. So we partner with the other agency I told you about that provides the most outreach. They're called Mint, and they do a great job going out basically daily and checking in with their clients. And we go out multiple times a week also just to make sure and they communicate with us when there's any clients that need to be referred to us. We just stay in communication, make sure any of these changes that are happening, they let us know, because they're just still working out this process of moving clients to the new campsites that they wanted. And it's a work in progress. And it's one of those things where I think they just, they're hearing what people need. So they're open to feedback, but they're trying to balance it all.
Yeah.
There's still community that don't understand at all, but they're trying to make sure that the balance is there. And I think that it needs to be, there's a urban campground in Medford that I think works very well. And I kind of envision it to hopefully get more like that so that it can be more of a transition so that people can move from that into where more resources can come to it in a more structured way and they feel safer and then they can get into housing.
Mm-hmm. The folks that are moving to a different camp location, is that more of a rural location that they're being moved to because they can't stay in the city?
So most of the people that I work with, they choose to rather be in rural areas. They feel safer being out of the city. And then that's what most of our work is meeting clients where they're at, not only physically, but mentally, meeting them where they're at and delivering to them and giving them all the information they need, making sure they have a working cell phone so we can contact them and they're safe.
Yeah.
Because that does create a much potentially safer environment outside of a bustling city and less controlled environments. But that also tends to put people away from resources. And that's great that your agency is able to provide those basic resources. Yeah.
Yeah, so you kind of think of, it depends, most of the time is based on the trauma that they've experienced, that they feel safer in a BLM property or out in a wooded area than around people.
And from the city cops that are just, trolling around looking for people to give fines and tickets and...
Or to just be bothered to constantly have to tell people what you're doing, why you're there,
And feel like you can actually rest.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great thing about the McKinney-Vento law is that buses will go and pick up the kids where they're at. And if we have to change it every week. Yeah.
Is it just specific buses like for this program, or is it buses like
the
like
buses
city
for the school district?
For the school district.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah. And so, and then if it's something dramatic where they're moving quite a bit or we have to wait a little bit till that gets set up, then we have coordinated taxi, like a taxi service that is background checked as if they work for the school district, like make sure kids can get to school.
And the background checks are good to hear because
I
assume it would be so easy for the worst people to be driving kids to school and...
Well, I heard of in another school district in another state, they had retired teachers who signed up to help make sure they can drive kids to school too, whatever it takes.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Are you an actual extension of UCAN, or they just do provide some of the funding?
We are not an extension of UCAN. They're their own program and organization. So all the funding filters through them, and then they communicate out to all the organizations. And when I say partner, we speak to clients and we let them know, let's work with that. Let's send you over to UCAN or meet with them also, and you get assigned a case manager and work through your barriers together. So all of us as agencies together, we try to see what we can do to help get the clients to their next level, what they need to do. If it needs to be a utility bill paid off to get them into housing, if they need that deposit met, if they need some rental assistance, whatever the funding guidelines are that person gets. And so then in Jackson County, it's Access, who is the place that filters and gets all the funding.
Okay. And for here, it's UCAN. And then...
Is there any overlap in services between what you provide and Mint provides, or is that just separated by age groups?
It's separated by demographic of age group. And so we work together on things. So if they identify and they say, hey, there's a new family in town that has kids, they let us know since they're more boots on the ground every day. And then we cover just 2 times a week, maybe in the area where they're at and they see it. And then they have they run a night shelter that they just got approved. And we just communicate that way, and then we work together. So if they have a client that kind of trusts them a little bit more, then they would do a warm handoff to us. We didn't cover unaccompanied youth. That's huge in what we do. Youth, that are on their own. Yeah. That's huge, and the numbers keep increasing.
I would imagine, especially like the queer and the queer youth.
So there's not a lot of support in this area for our queer community and youth especially. So we're trying to build that back up.
Yeah.
And Medford, there's more. I'm part of the community, and I'm trying to help separate that from saying it's a mental health, because most people say, oh, we refer youth and clients who need LGBTQ support to mental health support. And for me, I think we need it to be separated and say, no, we need LGBTQ support, and it's not
Because everybody
always.
needs.
I
the
mean,
mental
everyone.
health
That's why I
support.
always say everyone needs mental health support.
Mhm.
So we give that support,
Mhm.
but we need to say
Yeah.
it in a different way and not
Mhm.
say, okay, this someone's going to say it needs to be mental health support. So
Yeah.
In my transitioning, I've had to talk with my therapist, talk with my doctor, have
yeah,
diagnosis of gender dysphoria.
Yeah.
and it's troublesome.
Yeah.
The need to pathologize people's existence to justify basic support is just, it's ridiculous.
No.
There shouldn't be a questionnaire for why do you need food today? Why do you need this help ever? Because people just do.
That's great. Thank you. I really admire what you do.
We admire what you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Join us on the first and third Mondays of each month for Moment of Truth with Amy Chen Mills at 6 p.m.
And Talk of the Bay every weekday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on KSQD and KSQT FM.
The Moment of Truth with Amy Chen Mills team includes Amy Chen Mills, Inyanko Nyasu, Bara Ramakrishnan, Mailing Obinata.
Joy Schendel-Decker, along with Todd Zimmerman and Clay Worthington of Nativeverse Studios.
Thanks for joining us.